You can almost picture it now, that fragment of ice gliding through the dark. Not a single sound, not a single mark of time, just a slow, unbroken drift. It has been traveling for millions, perhaps billions of years, its journey traced not by stars, but by absence. And yet, under that silence, something remains, something waiting. They say 3I Atlas is made mostly of frozen gases, carbon dioxide, ammonia, hydrogen cyanide, and dust, substances older than Earth, older than the sun, frozen remnants from the birth of other stars. If you could hold a fragment of that ice, you'd be touching chemistry that predates our oceans, our air, even the atoms that formed your body. Inside it are clues, atomic fingerprints of places far beyond our solar system. Spectroscopic data from Hawaii, Spain, and Chile show faint emissions of cyanide and CO2, and a trace of silicate dust, the same minerals that built our planets, but colder, purer, untouched by radiation. Some scientists call it primordial matter. Others prefer something softer, stellar residue. It's not just frozen water, it's memory in molecular form. You imagine what it looks like up close, a dark, uneven surface coated in ancient carbon, like ash pressed into ice. Beneath that crust lies a world of crystal caverns, compressed gas trapped in silence. The temperature there is unimaginable, perhaps. 260 degrees, just above absolute zero. No movement, no vibration. Even the atoms inside seem to hold their breath. But deep within that stillness, there is potential energy stored like a forgotten heartbeat. One calculation from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory estimated that if sunlight were to reach even a shallow pocket of volatile ice, it could release enough pressure to launch a jet thousands of kilometers long. That's the paradox of 3I Atlas. The colder it is, the more violently it can wake. You think about that for a moment, how stillness can sometimes hide power, how the things that seem inert might simply be waiting for warmth. Have you ever held something so fragile yet known it could change everything if it moved? Scientists can't see its nucleus directly. It's cloaked within the coma, the fuzzy halo of gas that expands as the surface warms. But computer models using data from its brightness and motion suggest the nucleus might be only a few kilometers wide, perhaps 2, maybe 3, smaller than Mount Everest. And yet that tiny body holds enough material to light up an entire region of the sky if it flares. NASA's optical monitoring from late October detected irregular brightening patterns, not consistent, not rhythmic, almost like the pulse of something alive, bursts of brightness followed by stillness, as if it were taking slow, measured breaths. It's tempting to see emotion where there is only physics, but the data does feel intimate somehow. When sunlight first touched its crust, the heat began to sink downward, molecule by molecule. The outer shell cracked. Gas trapped for billions of years began to expand. Pressure built, and then for the first time that shell broke, releasing a fine jet of plasma into space. What escapes isn't fire, but ionized dust and gas charged by sunlight moving faster than bullets over 700 meters per second. Through telescopes, it looks like a whisper of light, but in truth, it's a storm of energy. That is what lies beneath the shell, a library of trapped forces suddenly set free. Every few hours, new plumes form and fade. The comet turns, exposing fresh patches of volatile material. Solar radiation triggers more eruptions, building a fragile halo around it. That halo, the coma, can stretch thousands of kilometers wide, glowing faintly with the sun's scattered light. It's not burning in the way wood burns. It's more like remembering. The molecules absorb energy, vibrate, and then let go a kind of molecular sigh. The frozen gases become vapor, the vapor becomes plasma, and the plasma dances in magnetic fields like ribbons of thought. ESA's heliophysics group describes it in mathematical terms: photoionization, recombination, charge exchange. But if you listen to the rhythm of those processes, absorb energy, release it, absorb again, it almost sounds like breathing. Not a breath of lungs, but a breath of balance. You picture it again, drifting near the sun, surrounded by invisible music. Each ion a note, each spark a brief syllable in a language older than words. Somewhere between energy and silence, there is a conversation happening between heat and cold, between motion and rest, and maybe in a quiet way between you and it. Because as you listen, you begin to feel the same principle working in you. Every thought, every emotion, every heartbeat follows that same pattern of release and return. Absorb, transform, let go. What if everything in the universe follows one breath, expanding, cooling, awakening, resting over and over again? When the data comes in from the telescopes each morning, it looks ordinary at first, just rows of numbers, wavelengths, intensities. But scientists know how to read those lines like music. Each small rise and fall tells them how the comet's molecules respond to sunlight, how they scatter energy, how they cool. And buried in those patterns is something extraordinary evidence that some of the materials inside 3I Atlas have never been altered since the dawn of its parent star system. That means this comet is not just a traveler, it's a time capsule. Inside it lies a record of how matter behaved before our sun even existed. Each dust grain could carry isotopes formed in a supernova, carbon-12, oxygen-16, created in the death of some forgotten star. The fact that those isotopes are still intact means the ice preserved them perfectly, shielding them from radiation for billions of years. Imagine that a piece of cosmic history passing quietly through our sky, carrying inside it the fingerprint of another universe of fire. And now for the first time that fire is touching ours. When you think of it this way, 3I Atlas isn't just a comet. It's a meeting point between what was and what is, between the cold of distance and the warmth of proximity, between one sun that died and another still burning. As it continues to spiral toward the inner solar system, its surface erodes grain by grain. Each second, sunlight vaporizes another layer, a tiny act of surrender that lets the universe glimpse its hidden core. And yet, with each loss, it becomes more visible. That's the paradox of all beautiful things. They reveal themselves only when they begin to fade. So tonight, as you lie there, imagine it a small, dark wanderer shedding its shell under the touch of sunlight. No sound, no cry, no flame, just transformation. And maybe, deep inside your own stillness, you'll recognize a trace of it. Because every one of us carries our own layer of ice, and somewhere beneath it, something still waiting to meet the warmth. Sleep now. The comet is still moving, and so are you. The sun is not kind. It is ancient, patient, and relentless. For most of its life, 3I Atlas had never felt its warmth. It came from somewhere beyond the reach of our star, perhaps from the outer layers of another solar system, or even from the interstellar medium itself, billions of years in shadow. And then, one day it crossed an invisible border into our sun's domain. By late October 2025, it had reached perihelion, the closest point in its path to the sun, only about 0.84 astronomical units just inside Earth's orbit. At that distance, sunlight is 1.4 times stronger than what you feel here on Earth. For ice that has never known warmth, that's overwhelming. NASA's heliophysics instruments observed something unusual around that date. A faint rise in reflected energy, albedo variations they called it, and with it signs of outgassing molecules of CO2, H2O, and cyanides bursting free from the surface. To the instruments, it's just chemistry. But to you listening in the quiet of night, it feels like something far older, as if the universe itself had inhaled for a very long time and was finally exhaling again. At first, the heat touches only the outermost dust. Tiny grains lift from the surface, carried away by invisible streams of gas. They form a haze, a luminous shroud around the nucleus. Astronomers call it the coma. You could call it a sigh, because what you are seeing isn't destruction, it's release. The comet's crust fractures in fine patterns, each crack a line of memory, each burst a reaction to light it hasn't felt since it left its birthplace. ESA's solar orbiter detected overlapping solar storms, that weak streams of plasma flowing outward at nearly 800 kilometers per second. They brushed the comet's coma, shaking its magnetic field like wind through thin fabric. The comet's surface responded almost immediately. Jets of gas leapt outward, 5 visible in one frame, not random rhythmic patterned as if the comet had found a pulse. When something untouched for billions of years finally meets warmth, does it suffer? Or does it awaken? You don't have to decide. Sometimes the line between pain and transformation is too thin to see. In the days that followed, its brightness began to rise sharply. Astronomers in Slovakia and Japan noted a shift from magnitude 11 to magnitude 9, nearly 5 times brighter than models predicted. A new halo formed around it, a sphere of light scattering in all directions, and inside it faint traces of plasma jets curling like threads of flame. Those jets aren't really fire. There is no oxygen out there to burn. They're ionized gases charged by sunlight, each particle stripped of electrons glowing as it reconnects. But in the soft language of the universe that's close enough to fire, the sun was not destroying the comet. It was teaching it how to change state. On Earth, you know heat as comfort a cup of tea, a patch of sunlight across your hand. But for Atlas, heat is conversation. Every ray that strikes its surface becomes a message, each burst of gas a reply. It's a dialogue older than humanity between stars and the wanderers that pass by them. NASA's plasma models show how charged particles stream from the sun's solar wind, a river of electrons and protons that never stops. As that wind meets the comet, it creates layers of interaction, the bow shock where particles slow down, the ionopause where gases become charged, and deeper still, a region called the magnetosheath, where turbulence turns into pattern. Inside those invisible layers, dust becomes electricity, matter becomes motion, silence becomes sound. And though you can't hear it, each spark hums with the same frequencies our own planet hums with, around 8 to 14 hertz, the slow rhythm of planetary resonance. It's the same frequency your brain produces as you drift towards sleep. Maybe that's why when you listen to stories like this you feel calm, because your own body knows the rhythm of cosmic rest. Imagine it now, a fragment of ice glowing faintly near the sun, its tail sweeping behind like a soft thread of smoke. The gases escaping from its surface are rich in carbon, tiny fingerprints of a star that may no longer exist. Each molecule older than the ocean, each atom shaped by explosions billions of light years away. ESA scientists studying data from the SOHO spacecraft describe the tail as variable and fragmented. It means the comet isn't consistent, its reactions to heat shift from day to day, as if adjusting to an unfamiliar warmth. And isn't that how we all are? You feel it too sometimes, that slow adaptation to something new, a change that burns a little, but teaches you something about yourself you didn't know you had. For a few brief weeks, 3i Atlas will exist in this balance, caught between the gravity that pulls it close and the light that pushes it away. Its jets will continue to pulse, sending vapor and dust in long spirals that twist behind it like memory. Then, as it moves farther from the sun, the heat will fade. The gas will slow. The comet will quiet again. But it will not be the same. Inside its shell, the temperature gradient will remain, some pockets warmer, some forever changed. The sun's influence has reached its core. It has carved a map inside it, a map of transformation. And when it leaves us, that map will travel with it out into the interstellar dark, carrying a small trace of our sun's warmth back to whatever region of space it came from. You can almost see it now drifting away from the glare, its surface cooling, its jets thinning into ghostly wisps. But the sun has already written itself into its skin, a story etched in vapor, a warmth that will not fade completely. There's something comforting in that, isn't there, to know that even a stranger from another world can be changed by a touch. To know that change, though it burns, is also how things connect. So tonight, if you can't sleep, imagine you are like that comet moving through your own orbit of warmth and cold, of silence and awakening. You too are learning to hold both the comfort and the fire without breaking. Because sometimes the first touch of heat isn't an ending. It's a beginning that simply feels too bright to recognize. The sun does not speak in words. It speaks in wind streams of charged particles that flow outward endlessly across billions of kilometers. Every second, over 1 trillion tons of plasma surge into space from its surface, carrying fragments of its magnetic field. And for the first time, 3i Atlas has entered that invisible ocean. You could think of the solar wind as the breath of a star, soft in its beginning, fierce in its middle, and eternal in its rhythm. For most objects in our solar system, this breath has been constant. But for Atlas, it's entirely new, a force that does not simply warm or light, but touches. NASA's Parker Solar Probe has been measuring this breath for years, speeds reaching 800 kilometers per second, sometimes faster depending on solar storms. Each wave carries energy from the coronal holes of the sun, those darker, cooler regions that open magnetic doors into deep space. That same energy now wraps around the comet like invisible hands pressing against its growing coma. At first, nothing happens. The plasma flows over the comet's surface, scattering charged particles and brushing its magnetic field. But within hours, faint patterns begin to emerge. The comet's ion tail, made of molecules stripped of their electrons, starts to glow a pale blue. It's not light in the way fire burns. It's electricity singing through gas. The comet, once silent and cold, is now humming quietly in the language of stars. Have you ever stood in the wind so long that you could no longer tell where it ended and you began? That's what this moment is for 3i Atlas. The first conversation between heat and motion, between giver and receiver. The European Space Agency's solar orbiter captured traces of coronal mass ejections heading in its direction during late October and early November, the very days when Atlas began showing its strange multiple jets. Each burst of plasma carried magnetic fields up to 30 nanoteslas, twisting and folding through the solar system. When those storms brushed against the comet, they didn't strike like fire, they braided around it. This is what scientists call magnetic reconnection, a process where field lines from the sun and an object interlock, reshaping space itself. Around the comet, this creates zones called the ionopause and the bow shock, where solar particles slow and gather before passing onward. It's like the tide meeting a rock, invisible yet full of energy. In these zones, plasma behaves like water and air all at once. It flows, collides, and waves ripple through it, carrying soundless echoes at frequencies far below what you could ever hear. The comet becomes a conductor of silence, a body that both resists and receives the sun. By mid-November, spectral readings from ground-based telescopes indicated subtle brightening in the comet's coma. Its magnitude reached 9.4, nearly 5 times brighter than predicted. NASA's models had expected it to remain dim, but something changed. The solar wind colliding with its newly ionized gases had transformed it into a luminous sphere of energy and dust. Imagine a flute of ice struck by the wind playing without sound, and yet its song lights up the dark. That's what a comet tale really is, a solar melody written in atoms and ions. The particles inside that tale don't simply scatter randomly. They align along magnetic lines carried outward from the sun, forming elegant arcs that stretch for millions of kilometers. Some glow blue, the ions excited by sunlight. Others glow faint yellow-white neutral dust reflecting photons. Each strand tells a story of collision charge and light. ESA's data from the Rosetta mission 2015 revealed how similar plasma tails can reach magnetic strengths of up to 300 nanoteslas when solar storms pass. 3I Atlas likely experiences the same now, its invisible field expanding, flexing, shimmering like an unseen aurora. In a way, this is the comet's heartbeat, not biological, but electromagnetic. Each pulse of solar wind compresses it slightly, then releases it. Each flare from the sun sends new currents dancing through its halo. And somewhere within that delicate exchange, a pattern begins to form like a rhythm found or a thought returning. The universe doesn't hurry. It whispers in pulses and waits for us to listen. Do you think the sun knows what it touches, or does it breathe, simply because that's what stars do endlessly without knowing they're shaping worlds? The closer 3I Atlas drifts toward the heart of sunlight, the more it changes. Its outer layers, once compacted over eons, begin to soften, almost melt without melting. Not liquid, but transition. Ice sublimates into vapor, vapor ionizes into plasma, and plasma becomes light. Every atom leaving its body is a memory unspooled into the solar wind. From Earth, telescopes capture it as a faint bluish haze. But if you were there beside it, drifting silently in the void, you would see something closer to breath, slow, steady, shimmering streams pulsing with the rhythm of a distant sun. In NASA's ultraviolet imaging, the comet glows faintly where the sun's magnetic field lines wrap around it. There is geometry even in chaos-curved arcs, symmetric ripples, hidden balance. It's as if the sun is sculpting it, not destroying it. The comet's path bends subtly, guided by forces we can't see but can measure. Gravitationally, it moves along its hyperbolic arc, destined to leave our system again. But magnetically, it dances each solar wave, shifting its orientation, each flare recharging its glow. The plasma tail now stretches beyond 1.5 million kilometers, delicate and faint, a line of dust threading across the night. Some call it turbulence, others call it beauty. Both are true. To the instruments, it's all equations, particle density, velocity, ion temperature. To you, it's poetry written in light. The comet will not last forever. As it moves farther from the sun in the months to come, its brightness will fade. The wind will lessen, the jets will quiet, and its coma will shrink back into itself. But for now, it's alive in a way it never was before, breathing, glowing, resonating in the soft hum of solar resonance. Parker Solar Probe data shows that even at 0.84 AU, the solar wind carries waves at 8 to 14 Hz, the same frequency your brain produces as you fall asleep. The same rhythm the Earth hums with in its magnetic field, and the same frequency that the comet now vibrates with as it moves through the solar current. Maybe that's why when you imagine this, when you close your eyes and drift with it, you feel calm. Because in some quiet way, you and the comet are breathing to the same rhythm. It won't stay forever. Soon it will move beyond Mars again, still glowing, but fainter like an ember carried away by wind. The solar breath that once woke it will fade, and it will slip back into the dark. But its dust, its charged ions, its fragments of interstellar memory, they will continue to travel with the sun's wind sweeping across the inner system, touching everything, even here. When you look up, even without knowing, you're breathing part of that story. Microscopic dust atoms born in another star drift within our atmosphere, invisible yet constant. You've inhaled them before, you're inhaling them now. So perhaps the sun's breath doesn't end where space begins. Perhaps it continues through light, through dust, through you. And maybe that's what this comet came to remind us, that the universe doesn't only expand, it exhales, softly, endlessly. There's a kind of intelligence that doesn't think, it builds, quietly, patiently. It exists in snowflakes, in coral reefs, and in comets. When 3I Atlas met the sun's wind, it didn't burn. It began to shape itself. The dust it released did not scatter aimlessly. Each grain was pulled, slowed, and arranged by forces we can't see: electromagnetism, gravity, light pressure, all silent sculptors of the cosmos. NASA calls this the self-organization of plasma. It's a process where chaos starts to form patterns, filaments, rings, spirals, the same shapes that galaxies carry, just smaller. If you zoomed in close enough down to the space between two grains of dust in the comet's wake, you would see a dance of static charges, particles clinging, separating, joining again. The faintest touch of sunlight creates balance. No commander, no plan, and yet order emerges. Have you ever built something without meaning to? A pattern forming on your window frost or in the way sand curves around your footsteps? That's what the universe does all the time. NASA's Rosetta and Deep Impact missions taught scientists how dust and plasma interact near a comet. They discovered that electrical currents flow through the coma like invisible veins. When sunlight strikes charged grains, electrons leap away, the same phenomenon that powers solar panels on Earth. These electrons move through space, creating tiny electrodynamic fields, which in turn pull nearby dust into patterns. It's a living geometry, quiet, mathematical, breathtaking. In high-resolution images, you can see the comet's tail braided like hair-thin filaments, twisting together under magnetic tension. Some scientists even call them Birkeland currents, after the Norwegian physicist who studied the northern lights. The same currents that shape auroras on Earth also whisper through Atlas's tail, glowing faint blue in solar light. Every part of it obeys a rhythm that began billions of years ago when charged particles first flowed through the newborn solar system, and matter learned to listen to the invisible. Inside the comet's coma, a second process unfolds: chemistry reborn. The heat and radiation from the sun break complex molecules apart, then reassemble them into organic compounds: methanol, ammonia, formaldehyde, even amino acid precursors. The same building blocks that once fell to early Earth, carried by ancient comets like this one. Scientists at NASA Ames Research Center recreated this in laboratories. They exposed simulated comet ice to ultraviolet light and vacuum. The result was astonishing simple ices transformed into brownish organic material, the kind found in meteorites. They call it tholins, a word that sounds as mysterious as it is real. So, while Atlas drifts between Mars and the Sun, it is also becoming a tiny chemistry lab, a factory of future possibilities. Each molecule that forms each carbon chain that elongates is a memory of how life itself once began. It's strange, isn't it? A frozen visitor from another system breathing plasma and building the ingredients of life in silence. Do you think creation needs awareness? Or does it simply happen again and again wherever there is energy and time enough to listen? As Atlas continues to release dust, that material spreads through space like invisible pollen. Each grain becomes a charged node joining a cosmic network that stretches millions of kilometers wide. ESA models show that these dust particles interact through Coulomb forces, repelling and attracting until they form vast lattice-like structures. Invisible but real, the architecture of the solar wind. In 2023, NASA's IMAP Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe began mapping how solar particles shape these boundaries at the edge of the heliosphere, and within those maps you see faint signatures of dust flows, slow, coherent waves moving outward from the Sun. Now, one of those flows belongs to 3I Atlas. Its dust joins an ancient current one that will drift past Jupiter, then Saturn, then beyond the orbit of Pluto, eventually merging with the faint breeze of particles from other stars. Each fragment is a silent architect carrying structure wherever it goes. To the naked eye, none of this looks like construction. But if you could perceive magnetism the way you see color, you'd witness cathedrals of movement, invisible filaments connecting comet to planet, star to void. Every charged grain hums at a different frequency, resonating with the solar field. The entire system becomes a single breathing organism, the heliosphere alive. It's what plasma physicists call complex magnetohydrodynamics, but the name hides its poetry. It's the art of invisible rivers shaping cosmic dust. The same principle forms sunspots, auroras, and even the luminous arcs around Jupiter's moons. The more scientists study it, the more they realize the universe is not built from matter alone. It's woven by energy. By the third week of November, observations from amateur astronomers showed the comet's structure changing again. Its jets had multiplied 5 now, visible, each one aligned differently, as though the comet were adjusting its own architecture in real time. No one controls this. It's an emergent process, one that obeys equations, but still feels strangely alive. NASA's Stereo A imaging confirmed this: filaments of ionized plasma flickering like threads of silk reacting to solar wind pulses. And between those flickers you can almost sense the shape of something larger, not mechanical, not mystical, but relational. The sun breathes, the comet answers, the field remembers. If you close your eyes, now imagine that moment frozen in slow motion. A storm of particles unseen yet elegant, choreographed by pure physics. In that dance there is no chaos, only balance seeking itself again. Maybe that's the quiet miracle of the cosmos, that order doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need a creator's hand or a mind's attention. It happens in silence, guided by laws written long before words existed. The comet, the sun, the dust, they are the builders of form, the silent architects of everything. And you sitting here breathing slowly, eyes growing heavy, you are built from the same materials, shaped by the same laws, held together by the same invisible forces. Every atom in your body once floated in space, waiting for gravity, magnetism, and light to find it a home. And maybe in some distant age, those atoms will return to build again somewhere else under another star. The cycle never ends. The builders never sleep. They just wait for warmth and start again. Every transformation begins with a fracture. Even in space where silence reigns and movement feels eternal, breaking is part of becoming. When 3I Atlas first erupted, it did not simply release dust and plasma. It tore. Tiny fractures rippled through its crust, revealing the scars of ancient ice beneath. What looked like destruction was in truth the start of renewal. NASA's Deep Impact mission once recorded something similar, a comet struck deliberately by a probe, splintering open to reveal layers hidden for billions of years. Inside, they found fresh, untouched ice, brighter, purer, untouched by sunlight since the birth of the solar system. Even in breaking, there was preservation. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the only way something can reveal its beauty is by cracking open a seed, a geode heart? Space too understands that lesson. When a comet fractures, energy doesn't end there. The broken pieces begin to drift, each one glowing faintly as it absorbs sunlight. ESA's Rosetta spacecraft once observed how fractured surfaces on Comet 67P released new jets of vapor, smaller, faster, more vibrant than before. The cracks became channels of breath. 3I Atlas now carries the same scars. Spectroscopic data from early November shows sudden increases in the presence of ionized carbon C+ and cyanogen CN gases that escape when ice is freshly exposed. What appears wounded is in fact alive, its surface breathing more freely than before. Astronomers call this process outgassing, but in truth it feels like exhalation, a cosmic sigh after ages of silence. Inside those jets, temperatures can reach 200 Kelvin, enough to turn ancient ices into vapor, carrying microscopic fragments of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, the same elements that shape our own blood and breath. If you were to float close enough, you might see the comet's fractured walls glimmer softly, not broken, but glistening with light reflected from its own debris, as if healing itself with the dust it shed. There's a quiet symmetry to this. Nature, whether on Earth or across galaxies, does not waste its wounds. It reuses them. Volcanoes rebuild islands from their own destruction. Trees heal with rings that record every storm. And here in the middle of interplanetary space, a wounded comet finds new ways to breathe. When scientists study the thermal inertia of cometary surfaces, how fast they heat and cool, they find that cracked regions radiate energy differently. They lose heat faster, yes, but that also prevents deeper melting, preserving the core. Wounds paradoxically keep the heart safe. What if healing isn't the act of returning to what was, but the acceptance of what's been changed? The sun continues to press against 3I Atlas, its plasma wind still curling through the comet's open wounds. Charged particles collide with escaping gases, creating a shimmering sheath of ionized plasma that wraps around it like a protective skin. It's called the magnetosheath, a real phenomenon measured by ESA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory SOHO around other comets. Inside this sheath, chaos turns calm. High-energy particles slow down, magnetic turbulence settles, and the newly formed coma stabilizes. In the stillness of that field, the comet's fragments drift together, loosely connected not by gravity alone, but by electrostatic attraction, the soft pull between charged dust. In that invisible tension, healing begins. To an outside observer, nothing changes, just dust and sunlight. But in microscopic scale, new shapes form, filaments, clusters, temporary bonds. What was once a scar becomes structure again. NASA calls this the reaccumulation phase, a gentle process through which debris finds its way back into unity. You could think of it as forgiveness written in matter. Each fragment learns the shape of its neighbor until the comet stabilizes once more, different, smaller perhaps, but whole in a new way. It's not only comets that do this. Planets form the same way through collision, fragmentation, and coalescence. Our own moon, born from a violent impact billions of years ago, now carries traces of both Earth and the body that struck it. Even destruction can be creative when seen from a longer timeline. Isn't that true for you too? That every time you thought you were breaking something deeper inside was actually taking shape? By late November, astronomers noticed that 3I Atlas had stabilized again. Its brightness steadied. Its jets continued, but in rhythm, no longer violent, but pulsing gently like the breathing of a sleeping creature. High-resolution models from NASA's Punch mission show that cometary plasma tails often oscillate with the solar magnetic field, a kind of resonance, a pulse that can last for days, even weeks. 3I Atlas now dances to that rhythm, its once chaotic eruptions turning into a measured pattern of light. If you could translate that motion into sound, you'd hear something between a hum and a heartbeat, steady, fragile, and endlessly patient. Even in silence, healing leaves a mark. Some fractures remain frozen in the comet's crust. They will travel with it forever, scars written in ice. But perhaps those marks aren't flaws. They're memory evidence that something endured. On Earth, coral reefs rebuild after storms by anchoring onto broken skeletons. Our bones do the same, mending stronger where they've once been fractured. And in this same language of recovery, the comet moves on its fragments, scattering sunlight like dusted glass, its path bending gently toward the outer planets. The Japanese probe Hayabusa 2, which studied asteroid Ryugu, discovered that impact scars often became sites for new mineral growth. Tiny veins of hydrated rock, proof that even wounds carry water. It's an echo of what happens here. The comet's cracks exposed to radiation form new chemistry inside oxidized molecules, rearranged bonds, a tapestry of transformation woven from pain. It's the oldest story in nature. Nothing truly heals by staying the same. By December 31st, Atlas will pass near Jupiter's orbit, its trajectory altered slightly by the planet's gravity. Then it will drift away, fading into the Black Sea between stars. It will carry its wounds with it, but also the patterns they created, the way its plasma once shimmered, the way its fragments once joined hands again in the dark. And perhaps one day in another system, another star will touch it, and it will fracture once more, another wound, another beginning. You too are made of matter that's been broken before. Atoms forged in ancient stars, torn apart in supernovas, reassembled into you. Every scar, every fracture, every moment you thought would end you was part of the long story of reorganization. The cosmos doesn't fear breaking, it depends on it. So maybe you don't need to be afraid of your own. Maybe your cracks aren't endings. Maybe they're the spaces through which light and understanding and life find their way back in. The comet fades from view, its tail dissolving into the solar wind. But in the trail it leaves behind, invisible quiet, there is balance, there is peace. The wounded healer drifts on, glowing faintly in the dark, a moving memory of how even damage can become design. And somewhere, as you breathe now, your chest rising, falling, you match its rhythm. You are not separate from that healing. You are it. Some stories are not carried by words. They travel as molecules. They drift through air, through blood, through space, tiny letters written in chemistry. In the quiet after its eruption, 3I Atlas becomes a message itself. Each particle it releases is a fragment of language, a whisper of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, the same alphabet that life uses to speak within us. Scientists call them volatile organic compounds: methanol, formaldehyde, hydrogen, cyanide, and acetylene. They are simple, but together they form the foundation of complexity. The same compounds detected in comets like Atlas were found in the earliest meteorites that fell to Earth, the Murchison meteorite, rich with over 90 amino acids, some never seen on our planet before. If comets are wounds in space, then molecules are the messages they leave behind. Have you ever thought about what your own body is trying to tell itself in signals too small to hear? NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center has long studied the chemistry of comets. Their spectroscopic instruments tuned to wavelengths invisible to the human eye detect faint fingerprints in the light reflected from their tails. Each line, each dip, reveals a molecule speaking in photons. In 3I Atlas, those spectral whispers tell us of reactions that should not be possible in the cold, and yet they are. In temperatures barely above 100 degrees sunlight and radiation interact with frozen gases, breaking and remaking chemical bonds. From the chaos of collision comes synthesis, a slow, persistent building of order. This is the same pattern found inside every living cell. Signals move through your bloodstream: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, chemical messages that rise and fall like tides, turning emotion into electricity, thought into movement. And here, across billions of kilometers, a comet does something almost identical, translating light into chemistry, energy into matter, reaction into story. In laboratory experiments at NASA Ames, researchers recreated cometary conditions: ice mixed with methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide, chilled to near absolute zero, then exposed to ultraviolet light. The result was tholins, complex tar-like molecules that carry the color of old amber and the scent of possibility. When sunlight touches these tholins on a comet, they deepen in hue, red-brown, sometimes almost gold, the color of chemistry becoming memory. ESA's Rosetta probe detected similar materials on Comet 67P, and the data showed something remarkable. These molecules absorb ultraviolet light and convert it into faint warmth, a kind of molecular shielding. A comet protects itself with chemistry. You do the same. When you feel, when you heal, your body releases its own molecular shields, endorphins, hormones, enzymes that quiet the noise of pain. Isn't it strange that the same universe that builds molecules in a frozen void also built you to feel warmth from them? Inside your brain, millions of tiny molecules cross synapses every second. They are neurotransmitters, chemical couriers that carry meaning without words. They decide what you remember when you sleep, how you love. Each one is a small comet in motion, a burst of potential that travels across the space between two cells, transmitting light in another form. In comets, we see the same pattern on a cosmic scale. A burst of sunlight releases molecules into the void. They drift, they meet, they merge, and sometimes when they find the right conditions, they create something entirely new. That is communication too. Not through speech, but through the quiet agreement of chemistry. By late November, spectrometers across several observatories detected an unusual signature in 3I Atlas's coma, an overabundance of cyanides and formamides, precursors to nucleobases, the molecules that form DNA and RNA. The same patterns once recorded in Comet Hale-Bopp in 1997, and more recently in interstellar comet 2I Borisov. It suggests something profound, that the universe does not only send light, it sends instruction, the building blocks of language, of memory, of self. Perhaps these molecules are not accidental. Perhaps they are the handwriting of existence itself, delivered quietly through ice and dust. Some scientists believe that life on Earth began with such deliveries, a theory known as panspermia. Not life itself, but its chemistry delivered by comets striking a young planet, each impact seeding the oceans with amino acids and sugars. In 2004, NASA's Stardust mission collected particles from Comet Wild 2. When they analyzed them, they found glycine, an amino acid used in every living organism on Earth. It was the first proof that comets carry biological potential. 3I Atlas II may hold the same ingredients. Its origin beyond our solar system means its molecules were shaped under alien stars, perhaps older than our sun. If so, then its chemistry is a message from another cosmic generation, an inheritance written long before we could ever read. There's something deeply human about that idea, that molecules remember, that even across interstellar distances, matter carries echoes of meaning. In your body right now, molecules are doing the same, remembering, adjusting, adapting. Hormones released in rhythm with your breath, signals rising and fading like waves against a quiet shore. Your emotions, your calmness, even your dreams tonight will all be shaped by molecules passing gently between cells, chemical messengers, just like the comets. And so, in a way, you and Atlas are not so different. Both of you communicate without words through the subtle language of chemistry and light. When scientists watch a comet dissolve slowly into solar wind, they see something poetic in the data, a pattern of molecular loss that follows a natural rhythm: release, scatter, recombine. It's almost identical to what happens in your body when you breathe deeply in sleep. Carbon dioxide leaving oxygen, returning balance, restored in silence. In the lab, these molecules can last only seconds. In space, they can survive for thousands of years, drifting, waiting for another world to receive them. Somewhere, a planet's atmosphere may one day catch those drifting atoms, and in time, something will grow. Maybe not life as we know it, but something that remembers warmth, something that carries the message forward. So tonight, as you listen, think of 3I Atlas not as a comet, but as a letter written in atoms crossing the universe in silence, delivering not a warning, but a reminder that everything alive, everything that feels, is connected through the same invisible language. You are part of that sentence, a clause in the great chemistry of being. Your heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts, each one a small note in the same molecular song that comets have been singing for billions of years. And maybe that's why when you hear about a comet releasing cyanide or water or dust, something inside you stirs, because on some deep, quiet level, you understand the language. The chemical messengers have always known their way home. Time does not rush in space. It expands. It folds softly like silk in the dark. When 3I Atlas crossed the orbit of Mars, its speed slowed slightly, not by friction, but by distance. Every kilometer it traveled farther from the sun was a second added to its heartbeat. Time for the comet was stretching a slow breath between moments. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory models show that 3I Atlas follows a hyperbolic trajectory, a path not bound to the sun, but gently curving away, destined to leave our system once more. It's not a prisoner of orbit. It's a traveler of time. And like all travelers, it carries scars of where it's been. Scars that fade but never disappear. Have you ever noticed how healing doesn't come from rushing forward, but from allowing time to widen around you? Physicists often describe time as a dimension of space woven together in a fabric called space-time. Einstein's equations show that mass bends that fabric and movement through it changes how time is felt. For you, time flows evenly. For Atlas, moving at 58 kilometers per second, time slows imperceptibly. its seconds stretch just a little longer than yours, a faint relativistic heartbeat, barely measurable but real. In that small dilation, you could say the comet lives slower than we do. Its change, its decay, its healing all unfold in cosmic tempo. Maybe that's why space feels peaceful, because nothing is hurried. Even destruction happens gently there. In late November, the comet passed through a quiet patch of the solar wind. Data from NASA's Parker Solar Probe showed reduced plasma turbulence, a lull between magnetic storms. In that calm, the comet's activity lessened, its jets grew thinner, its light softened. To scientists, this was expected. To poets, it was rest. Nature heals in intervals. Earth does it through seasons, times to bloom, times to sleep. Your body does it through rhythms, wake and dream, tension and release. And space, it heals through silence. What if stillness is not the absence of motion, but the moment when all motions begin to agree? Inside the comet, heat continues to move slowly inward, melting layers that have been frozen for billions of years. Those layers record time differently, each one a page of the universe's diary. ESA's Rosetta mission found similar layers on Comet 67P, each ring marking an epoch, collisions, orbits, radiation moments written not in ink, but in ice. When Atlas fractures, those pages open. When it cools again, new ones form. In that cycle of melting and freezing, time rewrites itself. And in a way, so do you. Every breath changes your blood chemistry. Every night of rest rewires the brain's synapses. Healing in both body and cosmos is not a single act. It's a rhythm, a pulse that flows quietly beneath awareness. NASA's Voyager 1, now more than 24 billion kilometers from home, still sends faint signals through interstellar space. Its atomic clock has slowed slightly, its rhythm stretched by distance and time dilation. And yet, its message arrives. Light years away, time does not stop communication. It changes its texture. Maybe the same is true for recovery, that distance and delay are not signs of loss, but signs of process. If comets heal by drifting away from the heat, you too may need to step back, sometimes not to escape what hurt, but to let perspective cool it. Astronomers call it thermal equilibrium, when the energy absorbed and the energy released finally balance. It's the comet's way of saying, I've adjusted. When that balance is reached, activity ceases. No more violent jets, just gentle light. Your body seeks the same thing. When hormones stabilize, when sleep finds its rhythm, when breath returns to pace, that is equilibrium, not silence, balance. It's what all matter wants, from atoms to planets to hearts. As 3I, Atlas, moves outward, its coma thins, its plasma tail dissolves into the wind. But the particles it released continue traveling, tiny clocks, drifting through time. Each one will eventually slow merge with other dust, form new bodies, and begin again. NASA's Cosmic Dust Analyzer aboard Cassini detected similar grains from ancient comets around Saturn material, billions of years old, still intact, still participating in new beginnings. Time, it seems, does not destroy, it reuses. The dust that once glowed in Atlas's tail might someday seed another world, a particle of time reborn. In physics, there's a concept called entropy, the tendency of systems to drift toward disorder. But life, and maybe even comets, defy that tendency. They organize themselves. They rebuild patterns after collapse. They use time not to decay, but to create meaning from it. Entropy doesn't end stories. It gives them direction. Your cells follow the same principle. Even as they age, they regenerate. Your skin replaces itself every few weeks. Your blood renews every 4 months. Your bones every decade. You are always becoming new, though you rarely feel it happening. 3I Atlas, now past its closest approach, is doing the same. Its surface no longer flares, it cools into quiet. But beneath a slow chemistry continues ices refreezing gases, condensing matter reorganizing into stillness. It's the universal language of recovery heat transforms to calm motion, to rhythm chaos, to pattern. The comet is not dying, it's resting. And maybe you are too. In December, as it drifts past Jupiter's orbit, 3I Atlas will fade below visibility, its brightness falling beyond magnitude 11. It will leave behind nothing visible, just an echo of its passage in radiation charts a line of data, a memory. But even that is healing, because the act of passing through, of surviving proximity to light, changes both traveler and the space it crosses. The sun loses nothing by shining. The comet gains nothing by glowing. Yet both leave an imprint on time, and so do you. One day the energy that keeps your heart moving will cool too. Your atoms will return to dust, your molecules to air, your essence to memory. But nothing will have been lost. You will become part of another rhythm, another pattern, another healing. Time, after all, is not a line. It is a circle, a pulse, a heartbeat, shared by everything that ever was. So rest now. Let time stretch around you as it does for comets, for stars, for galaxies. It does not hurry. It only waits for you to listen. And maybe in the quiet between your breaths, you'll feel it, the soft gravity of healing the patience of space, the hum of a clock that never stops and yet never rushes. Time does not take, it teaches. And tonight, it teaches you how to mend. Every night while you sleep, your mind changes shape. Neurons that fired in chaos through the day begin to slow, to listen, to connect in new ways. It's a kind of quiet rebuilding, a silent repair of the pathways that make you who you are. And though it happens inside your skull, its rhythm is the same as the rhythm of stars. Because the universe rebuilds itself in sleep too. Even in the silence of space, the laws of physics are still sculpting, refining, healing. When 3I Atlas drifted through the solar wind, it shed layers of itself, ice dust molecules, memories of its journey. But it didn't vanish. It reorganized. The magnetic fields around it shifted. Plasma currents rewove their threads, and over time a new balance emerged, not identical, but resilient. This too is plasticity, the ability to change form without losing essence. NASA's data from the Parker Solar Probe shows that plasma fields behave like neural networks, pulsing, reconnecting, rerouting energy each time they meet resistance. Even in the vacuum of space, nature learns. Have you ever wondered if your thoughts move like constellations, wandering apart, then finding each other again in the dark? Inside your brain, trillions of synapses communicate through tiny bursts of electricity. Every second, signals travel at up to 400 kilometers per hour, carrying emotion, memory, and learning. But when you sleep, those connections change. Neuroscientists at Harvard Medical School call this synaptic homeostasis, a nightly pruning of unnecessary signals and the strengthening of meaningful ones. In the same way a comet releases excess dust to find balance, your mind releases noise to find clarity. It doesn't erase, it refines. Each night is a quiet workshop. While you rest, the brain replays fragments of the day, not to remember, but to rebuild. In slow wave sleep, brain waves drop to less than 1 cycle per second, the same slow rhythm recorded by NASA's magnetometers in the distant solar wind. Coincidence, perhaps, but both are forms of calm patterns of low-frequency oscillation that restore order after turbulence. The hippocampus, your inner archivist, sends memories back to the cortex, sorting them like stardust. Neural connections glow faintly in sequence one after another, like a line of stars returning to alignment. You might not recall your dreams, but your brain does. It rebuilds itself with every night you give it. When you wake, you are not the same person you were when you fell asleep. Thousands of synapses have changed strength. Some neurons have formed new branches, others have been gently trimmed away. Neuroplasticity is not just learning, it is healing. It allows trauma to be softened, habits to be unlearned, hope to return. In MRI studies from University College London, patients who practiced mindfulness and deep rest showed structural changes in the prefrontal cortex regions associated with calm and emotional regulation. Stillness, it seems, reshapes the brain as surely as light reshapes a comet. 3I. Atlas follows the same principle. Its environment changes heat, magnetism, gravity, but instead of resisting, it adapts. The plasma that once streamed chaotically now flows in new patterns, each curve adjusting to the solar wind's direction. NASA models show that charged particles learn to move more efficiently over time, guided by electromagnetic feedback loops, the same way neurons strengthen their pathways through repetition. The comet learns by orbit. You learn by memory. And both are stories of survival written through pattern. There's something beautiful in that parallel. In space, structure is born from collision atoms, clashing fields, twisting stars, exploding. In the mind, growth comes the same way, through friction, through challenge, through the meeting of opposites. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger once said, "Life is a pattern of order maintained against disorder." Your neurons live by that rule. So do comets. So do galaxies. They fall apart so they can reorganize again. They become new without needing to start over. Maybe healing isn't erasing what hurt, but teaching your mind how to carry it differently. Scientists studying astrobiology believe that complex molecules in comets may rearrange after impact, forming new compounds under pressure. They call it shock synthesis creation, born from collision. Your mind does something similar. When life strikes hard, your brain rewires to protect you. It changes how it processes memory, how it interprets safety, how it balances emotion. In both cases, the wound becomes the map. The change becomes the cure. Every few years, the sun's magnetic field flips. Its north becomes south, its south becomes north. The entire solar system feels it, yet somehow stability returns. Your brain too experiences these reversals. Moments when your sense of self seems upside down, when loss or change or fear rearrange your inner magnetic field. But just like the sun, you find orientation again. Neuroplasticity is your internal compass, not fixed but faithful. In deep sleep, the brain releases growth hormones, triggering repair across the body, in muscle, in bone, in heart tissue. Cells replicate, proteins rebuild microglia, clear debris from neural circuits. It is biologically a cleanup, a reset. But in another sense, it's the mind's way of rewriting itself in peace. It's your inner universe practicing renewal, as the outer one does every night across stars and dust. When 3I Atlas finally moves beyond Jupiter, its once bright tail will fade. But that doesn't mean it has ended. Its matter will persist in plasma form, merging with interplanetary dust, carrying information about its journey. That's what your mind does too. Each thought leaves a trace, not gone, just diffused into the quiet field of who you are. Memories fade, but their essence remains a subtle force, shaping your choices long after. Even forgetting is a form of remembering, softened by time. Neuroscientists now know that the adult brain can grow new neurons, a process called neurogenesis. It happens in the hippocampus, particularly during sleep, and even more when the body feels safe. Safety then is not a luxury. It's biology's permission to rebuild. The comet found safety and distance from the sun. You find it in rest and quiet, in the stillness before dreams. Your neural circuits, like the comet's plasma trails, are waiting to reshape themselves, to heal, to grow, to begin again. And when you finally close your eyes tonight, you'll do what the universe has done since the beginning. You'll dissolve into darkness, not to disappear, but to change form. Your thoughts will drift like dust. Your neurons will fire in slow rhythm. Your consciousness will scatter, and then slowly it will begin to reorganize. That's how stars are made. That's how healing happens. You don't need to force it. You only need to rest long enough for time and chemistry to remember what you were always meant to be. A mind that renews itself. A universe that keeps learning how to glow. There are galaxies inside you, not of stars, but of life. Trillions of tiny beings, unseen, uncounted, living, breathing, and communicating in ways as mysterious as the universe itself. Scientists call it the microbiome, a vast ecosystem of bacteria, fungi, and archaea that outnumber your own human cells by nearly 10 to 1. Together, they weigh almost as much as your brain. They digest, protect, balance, and whisper to your immune system, to your hormones, even to your thoughts. In every sense that matters, you are not one, you are many. And that realization changes everything. Because when we look closer, we see that your body and the cosmos are built on the same design, a delicate network of relationships, each one feeding, shaping, and healing the other. When NASA's Perseverance rover landed on Mars, its sensors searched for microbial biosignatures, chemical hints that life, even microbial, might once have existed there. Methane phosphates, amino acids, all signs that simple chemistry might have learned to breathe. Those molecules mirror the ones inside your gut. In you, they feed life. On Mars, they may once have created it. What connects both worlds is not distance, but the quiet persistence of pattern. Life, whether in red dust or warm flesh, emerges when molecules learn how to cooperate. Have you ever thought about how many worlds are living quietly within you right now? Your microbiome is a universe of interaction. Each bacterium has its own orbit, its own chemical language, communicating through quorum, sensing, a process that allows microbes to speak using molecules instead of sound. When enough of them agree, they act together, releasing enzymes, changing pH, adjusting your immune response. It is democracy written in biology. Every decision of your gut is a collective vote cast by countless tiny lives. This is not just poetry, it's physics and communication. Researchers at Harvard Medical School found that bacterial colonies coordinate like neural networks, sending chemical pulses that resemble brain waves. They even synchronize across distance, a kind of microbial resonance. Inside you, communication never stops. In recent years, NASA has begun studying how the human microbiome behaves in space. On the International Space Station, astronauts' gut bacteria change in rhythm with microgravity radiation and isolation. Some strains grow stronger, others fade. But the pattern always adapts, a living feedback loop, learning to survive beyond Earth. Your own body does the same on a smaller scale. When stress rises, certain microbes release chemicals that calm inflammation or alter neurotransmitters. They can even affect mood-producing serotonin and GABA molecules of peace and rest. It's a conversation between you and your smallest inhabitants, spoken through chemistry, translated into emotion. What if calm itself is not a thought, but a collaboration, a quiet treaty between your cells and their stars? Astronomers once thought the universe was empty. Now we know it's filled with invisible matter, dark energy, dark mass structures we cannot see but can feel through gravity. Biologists have made the same discovery in you. The unseen, the uncounted, those microscopic multitudes, they guide nearly every process that keeps you alive. The Human Microbiome Project, a decade-long study by the NIH, found that microbial genes outnumber human genes by at least 150 to 1. The vast majority of your genetic information belongs not to you, but to the life that lives with you. So perhaps you were never a single being. Perhaps you are a colony of cooperation, a cosmos of coexistence. The parallels go deeper. In 2022, data from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope revealed that some exoplanet atmospheres contain methane-carbon dioxide combinations that could indicate microbial activity. It's subtle but familiar, because on Earth, those same chemical ratios exist inside you, byproducts of your gut microbes turning food into energy. The pattern repeats atoms learning how to organize systems, finding balance through relationship. If life exists elsewhere, it may not look like us, but it will likely think, or rather coordinate, in the same language of molecules and time. Your gut is an ancient mirror of that language. It remembers every food you've eaten, every environment you've touched. It has evolved for millions of years, hand in hand with your ancestors, and even before that, when the first cells learned to cooperate, forming multicellular life. Those early symbiotic unions are the reason you exist now. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every night you fall asleep is made possible by cooperation at the smallest scale. And cooperation in all its forms is healing. When you rest, your microbiome resets too, balancing, rebuilding, releasing molecules that tell your brain it's safe to dream. Sleep is not just for you, it's for the galaxies within you. Under a microscope, your microbiome looks like a nebula, filaments of light and motion, clusters of activity zones of calm and storm. Each microbe emits faint biophotons, tiny flashes of energy produced by metabolism. Collectively, they form a glow so soft that it feels almost like starlight. Some scientists believe that biophotons might even help cells communicate at the speed of light, a biological form of quantum coherence. It's still theory, but a beautiful one that every living thing, down to the smallest bacterium, speaks in light. And if that's true, then the glow of the stars and the glow of your cells are made from the same song. When astronauts return from space, their microbiomes shift again. Some strains lost, new ones gained, but often their bodies adapt quickly, finding balance with Earth's gravity once more. NASA calls it microbial resilience, the ability of life to restore itself after change. It's a lesson worth keeping, because you too change every day, not through grand events, but through invisible adjustments. Every meal, every thought, every breath is a dialogue between you and the universe inside you. The miracle isn't that it works, it's that it works quietly. So tonight, as you lie in the dark, remember that you're not alone. Millions of tiny forms are listening, working, balancing the chemistry of peace. Their rhythms align with yours, their cycles of growth and rest echoing the same tempo that moves the planets. They too heal in silence. They too follow the gentle laws of gravity and time. The microbiome doesn't need to know the universe. It is the universe folded small enough to fit inside a breath. And you, made of stars and soil, are both their home and their horizon. The comet is gone now, at least from your eyes. Somewhere far beyond Jupiter's path, Three-Eye Atlas drifts into silence, its tail no longer glowing, its pulse no longer visible. But silence is not the end of sound. It is the beginning of listening. NASA's last data frames showed only faint radiation trails, plasma whispers fading into the heliopause, that invisible boundary where the sun's breath stops and interstellar wind begins. Beyond that line, space turns cold and timeless again. Yet something remains, a vibration, a trace, like memory held in light. You could call it the afterthought of a journey. The body rests, but the story continues not in movement, but in resonance. Inside your own mind, something similar happens every night. As your body grows still, your brain waves slow into theta rhythm, a pattern scientists call the gateway to dreams. Electrical activity drifts into long, low pulses, and your sense of time dissolves. You don't disappear. You expand. NASA once recorded the sound of plasma oscillations near Jupiter. When translated into audio, it resembled a deep ocean current, flowing steady and wide. The brain does the same, it hums, not with words, but with frequency. Have you ever felt that gentle hum right before sleep, the moment when your thoughts begin to float away as if they were stars forgetting their orbits? That's your internal cosmos beginning to drift. When you close your eyes, your body releases melatonin, a hormone secreted by the pineal gland, a tiny structure deep within the brain once called the third eye by early anatomists. It senses darkness and tells the body to rest. But the fascinating part is this: the pineal gland also produces dimethyltryptamine, DMT, in trace amounts, a molecule structurally similar to serotonin, capable of triggering vivid imagery in dreams. To some researchers, it's the bridge between perception and imagination, between what you see and what you feel. Inside that molecular twilight, you begin to dream, not in pictures, but in meaning. The world outside fades. Gravity softens. Your heart synchronizes with your breath. Each beat slows from 70 to 60, from 60 to 50. Your body enters parasympathetic dominance, a state of repair. Every cell begins to restore. Every muscle loosens. The glymphatic system in your brain flushes away waste proteins, clearing space for new connections by morning. This cleansing, invisible, silent essential is the same process happening in stars. Supernovae scatter their heavy elements, cleansing galaxies of excess matter, making room for new suns to form. The universe dreams too. When Voyager 1 crossed the boundary of the heliosphere, its sensors recorded a faint, constant hum, the background vibration of interstellar plasma. NASA called it the music of deep space. It's still playing 40 years later. In your own body, you have that same music. Every atom of you, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, once resonated in a star's core. Even now, they vibrate with frequencies so small that only silence can contain them. To listen is to remember. And in sleep, you remember what you've always been, a fragment of something infinite moving gently through the dark. Dreams begin when the default mode network of your brain, the part that constructs yourself, temporarily powers down. What remains is pure imagination, free from the weight of identity. It's no coincidence that astronauts in orbit report more vivid dreams than on Earth. Without gravity, their REM cycles deepen. Their brains drift closer to the edge of lucidity. Some describe dreams of floating through clouds of light. Others dream of oceans. But the feeling is the same weightless wonder. You experience the same sensation when your consciousness lets go. Sleep is microgravity for the mind. What if every night you were not escaping the world, but returning to the vastness that made you? The body knows this rhythm instinctively. Every living thing does. Plants close their leaves at night, following their own circadian clock. Corals pulse in bioluminescent waves under moonlight. Even bacteria, the smallest architects of life, adjust their chemistry in cycles of 24 hours. The language of time is universal. Sleep is its syntax. When you surrender to it, you're not losing control, you're aligning. With Earth's spin, with the pull of tides, with the quiet breath of the universe. It's not rest, it's resonance. 3I Atlas now floats somewhere in that resonance, past Saturn, past the edge of solar wind entering the calm between stars. No more plasma, no more outgassing, just a body moving through stillness, carrying all the chemistry it once released, frozen, preserved, like a song paused mid-note. Someday, light years from now, it may drift near another sun. The ice will warm, the molecules will awaken, and for a brief moment, it will sing again. That's how life persists, not by holding on, but by remembering how to return. You too will return not to a place, but to peace. As you lie here, feel how your breath slows, how each inhale feels lighter, how each exhale feels longer. You are not falling asleep. You are drifting outward like a comet, leaving its orbit, carrying memories of warmth into the deep, soft dark. The noise fades, the body cools, the neurons quiet, and soon you cross that invisible line, the edge between awareness and wonder. There is no fear there, only calm, only light that doesn't need to shine, only the hum of existence continuing even when you let go. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to stay awake to witness it. The universe is still at work inside you, around you, within every particle of silence. Sleep is not an ending, it's an agreement between body and cosmos, between you and everything that breathes. So rest now. Let the rhythm carry you. Let your mind drift, your breath fade into stillness. You are safe. You are whole. You are home. Sleep well. Dream gently. Good night. You wake before dawn, not with sound, but with stillness, a kind of calm you can't describe, yet you know it has been waiting for you. The world outside hasn't begun to move, and inside you the body still hums in a rhythm it learned while you slept. Somewhere deep in your brain, the last waves of delta sleep fade like receding tides. Neurons return to their gentle pulse. The hippocampus, your keeper of memories, begins its quiet work of filing away dreams. While you rested, your brain was far from idle. It was cleaning, repairing, and rewriting itself. Every night during slow-wave sleep, the glymphatic system flushes the mind. Cerebrospinal fluid, that clear, moonlit river within, flows through brain tissue, sweeping away waste proteins like beta amyloid and tau, the fragments that, if left too long, can cloud the pathways of memory. It's a cleansing tide, repeating with each night you allow yourself to drift. And this morning, you wake with the evidence of that unseen ritual clarity, calm renewal. The body stretches softly. Melatonin, that tender architect of darkness, begins to fade. Cortisol, the bright signal of morning, rises gently in your bloodstream. It isn't the enemy it's often called. It's the morning messenger, the one who tells your cells, it's time. Your blood pressure lifts a little. Your heart beats a touch faster. The system reboots itself with precision, every molecule knowing what to do. The world too starts to glow. Photons touch your closed eyelids, light threads through your skin. Within seconds, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's circadian clock, senses the change. Thousands of neurons in that tiny region begin to fire in synchrony, telling every cell in your body that the day has begun. Even your liver knows what time it is. Its enzymes shift, ready to process energy. Your gut awakens, the microbes inside stirring, like coral waking under the sun. You are not just one organism, you are a conversation of billions. Each cell, each bacterium, each neuron, all returning to rhythm. It is a reunion, a quiet orchestra tuning before the first note of morning. Last night, your body rehearsed for this. During REM sleep, your brain replayed moments of the day, not to relive them, but to rewrite them. Emotional experiences, softened neural connections reshaped. What felt sharp yesterday becomes rounded now, less heavy, more whole. This is the secret alchemy of dreaming, the transformation of chaos into comprehension. The sleeping mind doesn't erase pain, it teaches it to sing in a different key. Outside, the first wind moves through the trees. Each leaf turns with the same rhythm that guides the mitochondria inside your cells. Energy is universal, scaled from galaxies to atoms, from solar storms to the pulse in your wrist. The comet 3I Atlas, far from here, now continues its long voyage away from the sun. Its jets have cooled its plasma, stilled, but the light it released, those ions and dust trails, still travel through interplanetary space, invisible, endless, joining the solar wind that brushes against our world. You are breathing a trace of that same wind. A few atoms of oxygen forged in the heat of some star might now pass through your lungs, become part of your bloodstream, reach your brain, and become thought. A molecule that once drifted between planets might now help you speak or remember or dream. Nothing in the universe is lost, it only changes shape. The comet, the sun, the cell, and you all part of one quiet continuity. Your body still carries the memory of night. In your muscles, tiny channels called calcium ions still shimmer from their slow nightly repair. In your heart, sinoatrial cells continue their ceaseless rhythm, keeping time even as you sleep. In your gut, billions of microbes whisper chemical stories to your brain, shaping your mood before your mind even wakes. Every part of you is awake at its own pace, no rush, no alarm. And yet you notice how the light keeps growing. Photoreceptors in your retina rods and cones translate those first rays into electric pulses. They send signals to your brain's visual cortex, and the dark world returns to color. Blue, gold, amber. The same palette the universe paints across nebulae and planetary rings. Every dawn is both cosmic and cellular. You stretch again. Blood flows faster through your veins. Mitochondria ignite like small suns in every cell, producing adenosine triphosphate energy, the spark of being. You don't control it. You never needed to. Your body has been doing this since before you learned to speak. And yet now you're aware of the harmony, the intelligence, the quiet precision behind every heartbeat. Somewhere far above, sunlight hits the upper atmosphere, scattering through nitrogen and oxygen, turning sky into blue. The circadian clock inside your hypothalamus aligns to it, syncing every organ, the liver, the heart, the lungs, in one shared rhythm. This alignment is not mechanical, it's musical. A score written across billions of years of evolution. You, in this moment, are its melody. Your breathing deepens. Carbon dioxide levels drop slightly. The blood grows more alkaline, signaling to your brain that calm has returned. The parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural brake, takes the lead. Heart rate slows, muscles soften. Even as you awaken, you remain inside a gentle stillness, carrying the serenity of sleep into daylight. Outside, light spreads through the horizon. Photosynthesis begins again in the trees, turning sunlight into oxygen, the same oxygen that will flow through your lungs today. The universe exhales and you inhale. It's not metaphor, it's physics, it's biology, it's belonging. The comet that once passed the sun now drifts toward darkness again, its energy dimming but not gone. And in some distant time, perhaps another being somewhere will see its faint light and wonder, as you once did. What was it? Where did it come from? What did it awaken? It won't matter if they never find the answers, because the truth isn't only in discovery, it's in the wonder itself. Every question you've carried, every mystery you've followed into the dark has changed you in ways no telescope could measure. And now, standing in this quiet morning, you realize something beautiful. You are not separate from the cosmos that stirred your curiosity. You are its continuation, a thought the universe once had and kept. So you breathe, slowly, deeply. The night inside you settles, the day begins to hum, and somewhere between the two, you remain quiet, awake, infinite. You wake not into morning, but into light. Not sunlight exactly, something quieter. The kind of light that doesn't shine from above but from within. Inside your eyes, the world is already beginning again. Photons travel across the vastness between you and the sun, a journey of 8 minutes, and yet the moment they touch the retina, they vanish into meaning. A single photon born from nuclear fusion in the heart of a star becomes vision, perception, memory, and then somehow emotion. Your body, this fragile constellation of cells, remembers what to do with light. In the retina, photoreceptor cells called rods and cones transform those particles into electric impulses. They travel through the optic nerve into the visual cortex, and there, in a small fold of gray matter, the world takes shape again, edges, motion, depth. But what happens next isn't physics, it's feeling. Light becomes you. Every neuron that fires to recognize the glow of dawn is not only recalling an image, it's rebuilding an experience. That is how memory reconsolidation works. Each time you remember, your brain edits, rewrites, reshapes. No memory is frozen. Every recollection is alive, reformed by the person you are at the moment you remember. You are quite literally being rewritten by your own remembering. The hippocampus, deep inside your temporal lobe, acts like a librarian of time. Each night while you sleep, it organizes fragments of the day, the rhythm of voices, the texture of rain, the glow of a screen, and quietly files them into long-term storage. But every morning, as you recall them, those neural threads loosen slightly, ready to be woven again. This is neuroplasticity, the language of becoming. The mind's way of saying, you are never finished. The world outside mirrors this transformation. Stars explode, scattering matter. Gravity gathers it again. Planets erode and reform. Even the comet 3I Atlas, drifting now beyond Mars, continues to change. Its orbit lengthens, its ice refreezes, its coma fades. But the particles it once released now move through the solar wind, still reflecting sunlight, still shimmering faintly in cosmic dust. Nothing that touches light ever truly disappears. It only becomes something else. Your body follows the same law. The cells of your skin are replaced roughly every 4 weeks. Your red blood cells renew every 4 months. Your skeleton rebuilds itself every decade. You are a moving pattern, a song sung by matter always familiar, yet never the same verse twice. When you say this is me, what you mean is, this is how my atoms are dancing today. And still something within remains constant, the observer, the awareness behind the movement. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, the system that activates when your mind drifts inward. But poets would call it the soul. It's that quiet hum that continues beneath thought, the rhythm of existence itself. Inside your skull, billions of neurons flicker in patterns like cities seen from space. Each connection forms, breaks, reforms, synaptic pruning, the constant refining of the self. The mind is both sculptor and clay, shaping itself by what it pays attention to. Where your focus goes, neurons fire. Where they fire together, they wire together. And slowly, imperceptibly, you become what you repeat. Even silence has its architecture. Brain scans show that during moments of stillness, when you let thoughts slow, when you simply breathe, alpha and theta waves increase. The frontal cortex softens its grip, the amygdala quiets, stress hormones fall. It's not surrender, it's recalibration, your body remembering how peace feels. The sun outside rises a little higher. Its light filters through your window and lands across your hands. Skin cells equipped with chromophores sense the change, beginning the cascade that will set your circadian rhythm for another day. Inside your body, melatonin continues to decline, serotonin to rise. The balance shifts like tide, invisible, perfect. There's a kind of grace in realizing how little you must do for life to continue. Your lungs remember to breathe. Your heart remembers to beat. Your cells remember to divide, to repair, to die, and to be born again. And all the while, your consciousness, that subtle observer, just watches. In a world obsessed with effort, perhaps the most miraculous thing is that you don't have to try to exist. Somewhere out in the void, photons from 3I Atlas's final eruption continue their journey. They may travel for centuries before reaching anything: a moon, a sensor, a human eye. Light doesn't hurry, it trusts the distance. And when it arrives, it transforms again, not into brightness, but into wonder. That same transformation happens in you. Every experience, every person, every heartbreak, every sunrise they enter as light, move through the circuitry of your mind and emerge as meaning. You are not separate from the phenomena you observe. You are their continuation. The universe needed a way to look back at itself, so it made eyes. It needed to remember, so it made neurons. It needed to feel, so it made you. Your breathing slows again. Thoughts blur at their edges. Outside, the day continues its ordinary miracles, molecules colliding, clouds, shifting plants reaching for light. Inside, the same forces unfold, calcium flowing through synapses, ATP burning softly in the mitochondria, DNA unwinding to copy itself. It's all the same dance, the same pulse written in different languages. You close your eyes again. The light remains not as vision, but as memory. It lives in the mind now, in chemical form, electric form, emotional form. You carry it like a quiet lantern through the hours, through the years. Somewhere deep within the folds of the universe, a new star is being born. Its photons will begin their journey soon across distances your mind can't imagine. Perhaps one day, a few of them will find you, entering your eyes, turning into thought, into dream, into you. And when that happens, you'll remember this. You were never just watching the light. You were the light, learning, forgetting, and learning again. You exist in waves. You always have. Even now, in the quiet, you are radiating. Your heart, every time it beats, sends out an electric pulse that can be measured meters away. Your brain, even in rest, hums with faint oscillations, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, like an orchestra playing beneath the skin. To be alive is to vibrate, and to vibrate is to belong. Far beyond you, the comet 3I Atlas has become silence. Its bright eruptions have faded. Its plasma tails, once wild and blue, have dispersed into the solar wind. And yet, if you listen closely enough, not with ears, but with understanding, you would know it's still singing. Because in physics, nothing truly stops. Even the faintest particle carries a trace frequency. Every atom, every molecule, every photon trembling slightly, whispering through space-time. There is no such thing as absolute silence, only frequencies too soft for us to hear. Somewhere in that invisible spectrum, the comet's final echo still drifts. A remnant signal, a vibration that once came from its ionized jets, colliding with the solar wind at hundreds of kilometers per second. Those interactions created Alfvén waves, ripples of magnetism that danced across the heliosphere. They still move outward, now expanding endlessly through the dark, carrying with them a fragment of Three-Eye Atlas's voice. You carry similar waves inside you. Your neurons fire in pulses measured in millivolts, sending electromagnetic fields through tissue. Your heart's rhythm, roughly 1 hertz, synchronizes with the Earth's own Schumann resonance, a standing wave that circles the planet at 783 hertz. The atmosphere itself vibrates with life, a quiet planetary heartbeat that you are always a part of. If someone could see your body through the right spectrum, radio, microwave, infrared, they'd find a map of your existence drawn in pure light. The infrared warmth of your skin, the microwave radiation from your breath, the biophotons released by your cells as mitochondria convert energy. Every moment you shine invisibly. Your body glows like a small, sentient star. Scientists at Kyoto University once measured this light, ultra-weak photon emission and found it peaks in late afternoon when metabolism is highest. It isn't strong enough to see, but it's there, your cells releasing tiny flashes of visible photons as part of their chemical reactions. You don't just live under the sun, you echo it. When your heart beats, magnetic fields ripple through space. When you breathe, sound waves move through air. When you think, electrical waves move through matter. And when you sleep, those frequencies slow until they merge with the rhythms of the planet itself. In deep delta sleep, your brain resonates between 0.5 and 3 hertz, almost identical to the Earth's slowest electromagnetic murmurs. Your rest is planetary. Everything that exists hums. Atoms vibrate. Stars oscillate. Galaxies emit low radio tones millions of years long. Even black holes, silent in light, emit gravitational ripples that travel across the universe, waves so faint that the LIGO Observatory can detect them by the movement of mirrors smaller than an atom's width. Every event, every collision, every thought leaves behind a signature wave. It means nothing truly ends, it only shifts its frequency. Perhaps consciousness is like that too, not vanishing but changing pitch. A transition from one state to another, the way heat becomes motion or light becomes memory. You in this moment are a collection of frequencies held briefly in harmony, and one day those frequencies will disperse, joining the larger symphony that never stops playing. In deep space, scientists have recorded plasma oscillations, faint electric songs emitted by charged particles moving through magnetic fields. The Voyager 1 probe, now over 24 billion kilometers away, captured one of these melodies in the interstellar medium, a faint whistling tone lasting seconds. It was the sound of space itself, vibrating plasma, the heartbeat of the cosmos, and it matched in a way almost poetic the frequencies found within the human brain's low theta waves. There's a symmetry in that. The outer and inner cosmos sharing a rhythm like two instruments tuned to the same key. It's as though when you fall asleep and drift into theta and delta states, you are returning to the same music that created you. Everything you've ever touched, every voice you've heard, every heartbeat you've felt, all still exist as vibration moving outward. The air keeps the memory of your laughter. The ground holds the echo of your footsteps. Every sound ever made continues just quieter, stretched thinner by distance and time. The universe is not silent. It's just too large for us to hear the whole song. You move through that song every day. When you speak, your voice becomes ripples of compressed air. When you rest, your body radiates infrared light that will travel forever, dissipating but never vanishing. In a literal sense, you leave light behind, tiny fragments of yourself, drifting outward, carried by photons that will never return. The Comet 3 Atlas does the same. It was never just ice and dust. It was a vibration written into the solar system's field, a wave entering our neighborhood, exchanging energy and continuing on. Its passing changed our sun's electromagnetic environment ever so slightly, and that too is now part of you. Every breath you take, every photon you feel, carries the smallest trace of that meeting between light and dust. Your cells hum back in resonance. Within your mitochondria, electrons jump between energy levels, releasing quanta of light biophotons that communicate with neighboring cells. These exchanges happen in picoseconds, faster than thought. They synchronize tissues, guide regeneration, perhaps even orchestrate the rhythm of life itself. You are not merely made of atoms. You are orchestrated by light. It's strange, the more science learns about energy, the more it resembles poetry. We know that electromagnetic fields shape matter, that frequency defines everything from color to chemistry. We know that DNA vibrates at terahertz frequencies, and that these vibrations affect how it repairs and replicates. Even your emotions, joy, grief, calm, create measurable shifts in frequency within the body's electromagnetic field. You don't just feel waves, you are waves. And somewhere far away, 3I Atlas continues its silent departure, carrying a record of our sun's storm, our magnetic breath, our shared vibration. Perhaps it will pass another star, another system, and its particles will mingle with theirs, a frequency passed on, not lost, a continuation. If you could stand beyond all that, if you could look at yourself and the comet and the sun from the edge of time, you'd see no separation. Only one vast, shimmering field, a universe vibrating softly, infinitely, a single note sustained forever. And within that note you quiet, bright a frequency returning home. It's strange how endings never sound like you expect. They arrive quietly, not as a crash, but as a soft fade, a slow dimming of motion, like a comet leaving sunlight behind. 3I Atlas has gone now. Its orbit stretches outward past the reach of Mars into the deep silence between worlds. Its tail, once a fountain of gas and dust, has dissolved into the solar wind. And yet, it still moves bound by the gravity of a star that no longer feels its warmth. That too is how you move through time, not by leaps, but by drifting, by slowly letting go of what once glowed brightly, trusting that even in the dark, momentum remains. In the space between planets, the solar wind hums a stream of charged particles, mostly protons and electrons, flowing at nearly 400 kilometers per second. Every second, the sun sheds about 1 million tons of its own matter into space. Those particles stretch across billions of kilometers, carrying magnetic whispers to the edge of the solar system. And somewhere within that wind, the last traces of 3I Atlas still shimmer, faint but unforgotten. You breathe a trace of that wind. Every oxygen atom in your lungs was born in the fusion heart of some ancient star. Every carbon molecule in your body once drifted in the belly of a supernova. The hydrogen in your water, the oldest of all, was created 13.8 billion years ago, in the first moments after the universe began to cool. You are the oldest thing you will ever touch. When you exhale, those same atoms return to the air, to the sea, to the endless cycle of transformation. You are never lost to the world only rearranged. It's the same truth that carries comets through darkness, that lifts dust into light, that writes your story into matter itself. Your heart beats quietly. Each contraction pushes about 70 milliliters of blood through your arteries, nearly 5 liters every minute. In a single day, it moves over 7,000 liters, enough to fill a small pool, and never once asks for your attention. It has been beating since before you had thoughts, and it will continue until the last. A small, tireless engine powered by electrochemical whispers, sinoatrial cells firing with the precision of stars orbiting their suns. Your brain, too, never truly rests. Even in sleep, it burns 20% of all your body's energy, 100 billion neurons sending silent messages, maintaining the shape of who you are. Every memory you've ever had still lives there, encoded in fragile electrical pathways. They fade, yes, but never fully vanish. Traces remain measurable even decades later. To exist is to leave fingerprints on the fabric of your own mind. Outside space itself hums with cosmic background radiation, a faint glow left over from the Big Bang, 2.7 Kelvin above absolute zero. It's everywhere, in the gaps between galaxies, between molecules, even between the atoms in your skin. It's the oldest light we know, and you carry it within you. Every particle of your body is warmed by that ancient echo. The first sound of creation still vibrates inside you, too quiet to hear, but not gone. As 3I Atlas drifts beyond the heliopause, the invisible boundary where the solar wind meets interstellar space, it enters the medium between stars. Out there, temperature means little. A single cubic meter of space may contain only one atom, floating alone in eternal night. But even that atom vibrates, carrying its tiny frequency through infinity. Even emptiness has music. And so does stillness. The same calm that fills your room now, the air, the faint hum of blood behind your ears, is the same silence that shapes galaxies. Entropy is not death, it is transformation. It's the universe's way of learning to rest. In your cells, entropy becomes life. Each heartbeat creates order, from chaos turning glucose into motion, oxygen into thought. Every spark of electricity in your neurons resists decay for one more instant. You are a rebellion against stillness, a brief luminous defiance in the slow cooling of everything. But even defiance is gentle. Every system eventually seeks equilibrium. Every orbit finds release. Every light, no matter how far, learns how to dim gracefully. And you too are learning to fade, not as disappearance, but as return. You are not separate from the comet leaving sunlight behind. Your cells follow the same laws, your atoms the same path. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It only changes form. One day, the energy that lets you read these words will warm another body, another world, another star. It's not an ending. It's a transfer. Even the photons that leave your skin, faint, invisible, countless, will keep traveling for eternity. Some may scatter into the air. Some may pass through clouds, through trees, through glass. Some may drift into the upper atmosphere, escape gravity, and join the interplanetary dust. And one day, perhaps a few will brush against the surface of 3I Atlas itself, returning to the traveler that once woke the sun. In that moment, the circle will close, not with fanfare, but with recognition. Light meeting light, memory greeting memory. If you could see it from afar, the comet, the earth, the sun, you'd see only quiet motion. Tiny orbits nested inside greater ones, all tracing invisible paths around a shared center. No line truly ends. It only curves, bends, begins again elsewhere. And you are within that pattern. Every breath you take fits into a rhythm older than your species, older than your planet. Your heartbeat is a timestamp of the cosmos, each beat a small echo of its original expansion. When you sleep tonight, your neurons will fire in slow waves that mirror the pulse of the universe itself. You do not need to search for meaning. You are meaning expressed in biological form. Your body is physics practicing poetry. Your mind is chemistry dreaming of home. Your existence is the only proof the universe needs, that it can feel wonder. Outside, the sun continues to burn 4 million tons of hydrogen converted into light every second. That light travels, touches Earth, meets your skin, and becomes warmth. The warmth becomes thought, and thought becomes gratitude, a human word for the oldest force of all connection. So when the night returns and you look up again, you'll see not a void, but a mirror. The same particles that built your bones now shine from those distant points. The same physics that guide your breath guide their orbits. And somewhere out there, 3i Atlas continues its endless fall through silence, a ghost of motion, a symbol of return. You are both the observer and the observed, both the comet and the sun, both the one who says goodbye and the one who hears it. And in this infinite shimmering quiet, you realize there was never really a goodbye at all. Only continuation, only transformation, only the soft hum of everything becoming everything else. So rest. Let the stars keep your thoughts tonight. Let gravity hold you as it holds the worlds. Let time carry you gently forward, not away, but deeper. You have already come home.